Hello, this is Warlord. Today we're going to make a simple jumpsuit. But in making that jumpsuit, we're going to learn how to do a lot of different things like cut in cuffs, waistbands, even how to add padding like for jackets and things like that. What we're going to do actually is let Marvelous Designer do all the work for us. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, first thing we're going to do will be go to File. I'm going to add Avatar. In this case, I have already exported out just the blank default character creator male. We want to make sure it's on centimeters, and we're going to open it up. And this is what we're going to use to make our jumpsuit. Now, I'm in Marvelous Designer 9, so you'll notice some things have changed up here. What I'm going to do is grab my polygon tool, and we're just going to keep this pretty simple. We're going to do one part of this. Now, this really needs to be straight, but I'm going to go ahead and do this at an angle here so I can show you how to change this later if you need to. And it's just going to be a very simple jumpsuit. You don't have to do yours exactly like this. And there's our half. And now we're going to move in. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and grab an internal polygon line, and I'm going to cut in a waistline. Double click, and then you can make this as wide as you want, and you can also place it wherever you want. Okay, now that gives us our waistband to use for later. So let's select the whole thing, right click, symmetric pattern with sewing. Now select both of them, Control C to copy, right click, mirror paste. Now you can place this wherever you want. This is just my workflow. It lets me see it a lot easier. I am going to flip it horizontally just so the right face, the right side of the cloth will be out when I texture it. Now you can always flip normals later. And the normal is what actually does change what direction if you're not used to that. So now we've already got this much of it laid out. Now let's go ahead and sew it up. Since we used symmetry with sewing, it ought to sew up pretty fast. Okay. We may have to do a little moving, but let's see what happens. Oh, I forgot to sew up front and back. That would probably help. Sew up those, and here in front I'm going to go ahead and put in a zipper. Even though we're going to do something later probably make us lose this zipper, let's put it back in. But I'm going to show you how to do it, and you'd want to do this all the way down to your sewing lines down here where you sewed the legs up. Double click and then come up and do your other side. I'm not going to worry about getting it perfect. Now we're ready to draw it up and see what happens. We need to do a little bit of better placement. I'm just going to move these up, and we'll see what happens. Okay. And there's what we have so far. Okay, now let's go ahead and do our sleeves. I'm just going to move this out of the way a little bit. Again, you can place those wherever you want. We're going to keep the sleeves very simple. Not going to be much to them. I'm going to go grab a line, internal polygon line. You can put this wherever you want it. I'm just cutting in a cuff. Now we want to symmetric pattern with sewing. Grab them both, Control C, right click, mirror paste. Flip these horizontally because they're going to go behind. Bring them down a little. And now let's sew them up. Okay, let's see what happens. All right. Bit of a wrinkle there. That's pretty smoothed out. Now, let's go make our cuffs. Let's select our lines. Since we used symmetry, all we got to do is select two of them. Right click, cut and sew. And what that will do is separate them out and automatically sew it for us. We'll simulate it. And you'll notice we got some cuffs cut in here. Just that simple. That way we don't have to actually make cuffs, worry about the size of it, and sew them on. Just make your sleeve long enough and use cut and sew. Now we'll go ahead and do our waistband. And what I'm going to do is just move some of this up and out of the way. Move this back over just so we can see here. And what we want to do is grab the lines and do the same thing. Now this is what's going to make our zipper disappear, because we're cutting out where it was sewn, points it was sewn between. So now we're just going to cut and sew, wait for it to do its thing. Now you notice we have no zipper, just because of what I told you. So we'll go back up here and get our zipper. Again, I'm not going to worry about making it perfect. It can take more time when you're doing it. Don't want to make this tutorial too long. One side. There's the other side. Okay, now we're sewn up with our waistline. And there really wasn't anything to that. Now we're going to create some padding. Now if you remember earlier I told you that this needed to be a straight line. And what we were going to do is use it for padding lines. But inadvertently I made this line down here straight so we can use it. What I was going to do was just show you how to select both of these and straighten out that line if you needed to. Now we could leave it like this, resimulate, and that's going to work just fine. And I'll show you what I was going to do. Even though there was a straight line down here, we're going to grab this one, right click, and we're going to offset as internal line. And then how many we offset is up to you, and your spacing is up to you. But this is going to be our padding. That looks pretty good. And so there we go all the way across, and they're fairly straight. So we're going to do the same thing, offset as internal line. And now we have those lines offset. Now let's come down here and grab this line. Do the same thing, except we're going to have to make a few changes because it's not going to be enough lines. Now if you decide that you don't want the tops of the shoulders to be padded, you might want to come back and just leave it like that, where it doesn't bring these cross lines all the way up. Now same thing. Okay, now we have our squares or our sewing in there for the padding. Now when I first started using Marvelous Designer, we had to sew these things individually, or at least that's the way I learned from the tutorial that I got off of YouTube. Well, actually there's a cloning process that will allow us to clone these and do the sewing automatically. So what we have to do is just select, like I want these tops to be padded. So I'm going to select these 4 pieces of cloth. Right click, and what I'm going to do is layer clone over. There's over and under. I'm going to do over, which means it's going to be on top of everything. That way I know this is the top layer. And the great thing is all this is already sewn together with all these little squares. So now what we do, actually before you deselect it, you come in here, and I would change this to layer 2 since the others are layer 1, since the other is on 0. That way you know you won't have any conflict. And I would put pressure up, let's put it up to about 12, a positive 12. Now we're going to come over here and grab these, leave the layer like it is, and we're going to make the pressure a negative 12. Now our particle distance is still pretty far apart, so we don't have a lot of room to bend. But as you can see, that starts bunching that up and making your padding. You can always add more pressure both directions. But another thing you can do, if your computer can handle it, is you come in and you change your particle distance. And because particle distance is basically everything in cloth. So you could go all the way down to 5 if it'll handle it. I'm just going to go to 10 because it will slow down the simulation. And what that does is actually subdivide it basically to where it gives it more to work with. So that is how easy the padding is when you use cloning. I'll show you what I mean. It's already all sewn together for you to see. So all you have to do is just simulate it and just play with your numbers. That way you'll know, or you'll see how much padding you want. Also play with your different kinds of cloth. We're just using default cloth here. Now what you've seen here in just a very short time is some techniques that you can use on anything. Also, if you will get to notice, we have several things that we can make out of this. We already have a vest, we already have pants, we have a shirt. So basically all you would have to do would be to come in and cut out the parts that you don't want, and then reshape, add a collar, things like that maybe. And we have a vest. Now you'd have to come back in here, of course, and put a zipper back in. But you can see there how you would export that out as just a vest. Now you can do the same thing, of course, for the pants. You would just leave these parts, or just grab this part and export it out. Now this has a long zipper in it. What I would actually do for the pants, once you delete these others, that zipper will disappear. I would probably go ahead and sew this top part up and use a zipper from here down. It would just probably look better. But you may want to go ahead and put your zipper all the way down. That's just personal preference. But anyway, I hope this shows you a few techniques that you ought to be able to use on pretty much any piece of clothing, and add just a little more flair to it and not have to go back and do as much work as we used to have to do. I hope this helps.